18. Bo. Eva makes porridge for us in the morning. We go to the forest. Naomi and Nadina talk a lot and then they play. Bo can't join in and be an elf or a ghost in the game. Esther makes cookies and we eat them all that evening in front of the fire. We have to carry water inside and we have to carry the dishes out to the water pump. After breakfast, Eva goes back to bed while the sisters go outside. Eva is tired. There's so much freedom here that it makes her tired. We are all confused. What will we do now that no one tells us what we must do? Who are we now that no one mocks or forbids? Adina and Naomi go wild and crazy. Miriam and Judith retreat from them and find some wood to make dolls from. They get help nailing their eyes, nose, and mouth and wrapping them in strips of cloth. Lisa chops wood and tells us to stay away. I go to my Esther now. She is sitting with her back leaning against one of our trees, thinking about something nice. Her hair is blonde and curls around her face, and of all the sisters, she is the fairy tale princess. I walk as close as I can and then sit down, leaning against her. She braids ribbons of grass, wiggle her toes, gently scratches her mosquito bites. My sister Esther comes from a distant kingdom, the land that borders the angels' realm. On a white horse she came riding behind the curtain, and when the time came, she dismounted, kissed the horse on the flank, and walked steadily through the curtain. She was the third daughter, and she was round and bright. Little Eva and little Lisa were jealous of her because she was so pretty. But then they discovered how nice she was too, and they couldn't be angry and jealous anymore. She was the easiest child in our family, teaching herself to walk, eat, and talk. She was happy to share her toys and never argued when her parents told her to do this or that. Lisa and Eva took her out in the stroller and walked far away with her, knocking on a farmer's door and asking if they could move in. We have Esther. Look, here she is. You can have her if Eva and I can live here too. Esther can sing and paint and learn things and is good at almost everything, but she doesn't care that she is good. She makes friends easily too. Most people like her and she likes everyone. She sits here in the midst of bumblebees and flowers as if she has never done anything else. She looks peaceful and happy. Lisa thinks she is a weakling. So does she. But I think Esther is the one who could become happy. Ada comes out of the house and walks with quick steps towards us and then past. Where are you going? Esther asks. Out into the meadow. Can I come with you? Yes. Esther gets to her feet and I get up at the same time and we leave. I walk behind two sisters, look up and see light curly hair and straight, almost black hair. My two sisters do not look like sisters, but on some levels they are very similar. They come from fairy tale lands. Esther comes from an airy, bright country. Ada comes from a deeply hilly country with high mountain peaks and dragons flying at night. While Esther feels a lot about everything, Ada goes straight through. 12 years old, Ada is small and skinny, with big front teeth that stand out a bit. She's neat and clean, never had many toys, but the few that have stuck around, she cares for thoroughly. The Dutch hound on wheels that she places so he can see out the window, and the one-eared teddy bear that sits on her pillow dozing. Her teachers knows that she is brainy, otherwise no one knows anything about Ada. Whether she is happy or sad, angry or worried, the only thing people see is her narrow little face and her overbite. Ada's brain is restless, and she likes to stick her nose in factual books instead of dreams and poetry. She leaves the rest of us to wish, hope, believe, doubt. Sometimes she looks very sad, but no one sees it except Bo. We walk across the high tangle of the wild meadow. Are there snakes? Clap, says Ada. Stomp. I read that. It scares them. Esther stops and lets the tallest grass touch her palms. It's like we're floating over the sea, she says. Ada looks at her and then out across the meadow. Look, Bo is so small. Esther lifts me up on one hip because the wildflowers were swallowing me up. We stand in the squeaking, buzzing, dense vegetation as if we were floating on a sea of flowers. Then we continue walking. As we walk, we leave the house and the sisters and our whole family and situation. The meadow ends at a stone cairn and the forest takes over. We go in among the forest paths, narrow, which deer have trampled. When we get to the blackberries, Esther and Ada crouch down and start picking and eating. Like this, Bo. Sweet and red, fresh and bitter, stains on fingers and cheeks that Esther strokes. The sun has found its way through the treetops and shines on a small mountain covered with soft green moss. You can sit there and ponder. Ada climbs cat-like, Esther dreamily, with me in front of her. Our clothes are gray, our legs are thin and hard. There is an indentation in the mountain, like a bed, where deep green moss grows. We lie down there in a row with me in the middle and look up at the sky through the tops of the trees. I hope Mom and Dad don't come to pick us up. Esther nods slightly. If Dad comes, we'll run here. Yes. They might not come. Maybe they are tired of having all of us. Maybe they've gone away, back to Dad's England. Tree trunks creak, and the wind is warm and gentle. There are no forest trolls here, only friendly deer and hares. Ada Adelson. Esther laughs happily. Have you thought about us growing up, Ada? No. Yes, we will become something we aren't now. We will become another Esther and another Ada and another Bo. Then I'll be, like those mysterious ladies on TV. And I'll always wear nice clothes. Expensive clothes, Blouses, ties, tight black skirts. Where did you get the tie? Yes, a tie. I don't know what I want to be. Maybe like you. I want to be like you, Ada. It's not possible. Ada smiles happily. I'm the only me. But I want to. And then they lie on the moss and sing a few songs that they've learned in their 14 and 12 years and are in no hurry to go anywhere and have little to return to, and are only 14 and 12 years old until the sun disappears behind the trees and we climb down, a little cold. They walk back across the meadow towards the fire in the fireplace and the pasta that they will surely have for dinner again, and Lisa, who will scold them for not helping cooking it. "19. Bo. Bo is in the corner, looking at the sisters, likes the corner, had a good dinner. Aunt Thea was here to pick up Lisa, and they went shopping. We had cherry pie and ice cream for dessert, and Aunt Thea baked and ate with us. Then she went home to Lasse. We are what we have never been allowed to be before, wild and stubborn. Lisa has fed the stove with logs. We're dirty with filth under our fingernails, and our clothes are starting to rip. We wash our underwear in the lake and hang them up to dry. Eva is curled up in one of the armchairs with her legs drawn up to her chin. She hardly says anything and doesn't smile, and everyone wonders, is she sad or what? We love our Eva sister, who is supposed to be happy. Lisa sits dark and tense, watching the fire. Sometimes she struggles with her words and movements. Sometimes her love turns to resentment and criticism. She can't help it. Two are down by the bridge with the mosquitoes. Two little ones are doing their thing. Miriam has taken an old potato box and is turning it into a dollhouse with stones and sticks as furniture for herself and Judith to play with. Adina is happy. She laughs more than she talks. Now she and Naomi are tired of playing cards. We can play charades. She loves it. She loves it when the class puts on a play. She wanted to join some classmates for theater lessons, but Dad wouldn't let her. Dad is not here now. It's confusing, so Adina laughs and babbles. 11 years old, Adina. Almost all the games in the forest are invented by Adina. We watch Adina's charades. She leans forward, smiles curiously, and gestures. It's Aunt Thea, Lisa says. We laugh. Not me. Naomi stands up, holds her hand to her chest, closes her eyes, and makes big movements with her mouth. Pastor Johnson, says Eva in a low voice. They laugh heartily. Not me, says Lisa. She sits down and pretends to flip through papers, looking puzzled. Mom? I know. It's that social worker. My turn, Miriam says, and drops the stick puppets. She stretches, smiles wickedly, and walks in a threatening manner. Dad, says Eva quickly. And who's this? Lisa bends her neck and pretends to read anxiously while pinching her thigh. Mom, several of us call out. You must respect your parents, says Eva, and Lisa sinks into a guilty slump. Adina ignores this and does an exaggerated imitation of Dad when he has a new idea. Everyone laughs gently, blushing. Adina gets a new idea. Who wants to go swimming? It's night time. Yes, but I want to swim. Adina heads for the front door. Naomi is soon after, and Miriam follows her. Why not, says Lisa. Eva gets up tiredly. Come, Judith. Come, Bo. We walk in the dark down the slope. The sky goes from violet white to dark blue above the spruce tops. Our bare feet trample through the dewy grass that wraps around our legs. Adina picks up speed and runs in the dark, squealing. Esther and Ada are already down at the dock, splashing their feet in the water. Adina comes thundering and dives in. Adina! Esther and Ada shout in irritation. Jump in, it's great. The water and the sky are the same color. Adina is dark in the dark water. Eva lets go of her hands and starts wading away from the rocky beach. 3 are swimming out there. Eva sinks in some distance away. Then Esther and Ada jump in from the jetty. Then Miriam. Then Judith. I stand on rocks and watch, laughing, splashing silhouettes in the water. They come from the darkness and dive into a blind mystery, swimming underwater, trying to grab each other's bare white legs. The fire is turned to embers. We empty the leftovers from dinner and walk up the narrow stairs, hanging wet sweaters to dry along the banister. Everyone crawls into bed. I want to sleep with Naomi, Adina whispers, so we make room for her. Good night, deep sky. Good night, frogs in the meadow. Good night, slippery rocks and dark waves and kind cherry trees. Now Bo will sleep. "20. Alva. For 3 years, I was basically trapped in my room in the townhouse. Social services and the counselor tried to get me to go to high school, but they failed. During those 3 years, I lived with my mother's games. She pushed my buttons and pulled me around like a puppet. When I kept a diary, she would read it and then brag about what she had done. There were lots of games every day, accusations followed by praise, gifts followed by new accusations, and then tearful drunkenness. And every moment of life became an act of war. So I couldn't do much, was persistently lethargic. But every once in a while, I get excited and come up with something, constantly redoing the room, painting, carpentry, crafting with materials that I dragged home when I was out hiking in the evenings. I built miniature houses. The wall went from purple to white to blue to black. Then I lay in the rubble and watched TV, escaping into the box so that the people I saw became my own circle of friends and family. Oh, how I wanted to stay there. For a while I sat and did a lot of painting, pictures of me and Elsa. When my social worker came to visit, I showed her a picture of us. Who is this? My twin sister, Elsa. There was a chat on the phone afterwards between my mother, the social worker, and the therapist. The therapist studied me, and at the next home visit, I couldn't bring myself to take the bus to her office, so now she came to the townhouse once a month. Mom says you didn't have a twin, she said. I was more than shocked. It was dizzying, and I didn't know what to say. In the summer, I could go and visit Freya again, and of course I wanted to. She looked at my hair dyed black and my pale skin, smiled warmly, and gave me a hug. We pulled little Tore in a sling behind us as we strolled through the wild meadows. Every evening we trudged towards the grove on the path that led up to the forest. We sat on the stones by the stream, and Tora picked pebbles that glistened brown and gray and strolled under the canopy towards the crow tree where Tora had to practice climbing among the branches. After a while, we chose to walk in the other direction, down through the greenery to the water, which you could walk alongside, and finally settled down on a bridge and listen to the rippling of the waves the chirping of the birds, and the wind in the trees before taking an evening swim. Yes, and there was also the old railroad track and the hill with the dead tree at the top called Candy Cane. You could go there too to get a perspective on things. I felt free, dressed in floral shorts and striped t-shirts borrowed from Olav. One day Freya suggested that I cut off the black-colored tips so that I could have a short haircut with my own light brown hair color. There you are. We held each other for a long time before we separated at the airport. I wasn't much for hugs otherwise, but this day it was like we didn't want to let go of each other. A short time later, my mother came into my room and exclaimed, "Cousin Freya has died." Freya had been in the water when a little boy had shown difficulty swimming to shore. The currents were strong further out to sea. There was a fight in the sea, but Freya saved the little boy. In the ambulance, it was discovered that Freya had so much water in her lungs that they filled with foam while she was on her way to the hospital. She could not breathe and died. The grief was as deep as space. In the night, I stepped into the forest to meet my fate. I would go deep into the darkness to fall asleep and face death. I fumbled among the branches in the blackness of the stream, sank to the ground and closed my eyes. I felt no fear. I just waited, because it was not possible to live another moment on earth, not without Elsa and Freya. I waited a long time, but I did not die. Instead, I trudged on at dawn until I had walked around the entire village and crossed the threshold of the townhouse again. I got pneumonia and lay with a high fever for a week. I only cried that first night, then the tears stopped, because I knew that now there was no one left. But after I didn't die myself, I decided to become a fighter. Elsa and Freya had their eternal rooms in my heart, and I would carry them through all the darkness that could ever be, because they would continue. They would live through me, and I was not going to let them down. All were safely contained within my body, which now felt like steel. It rattled in my heart. One day, I would come home to my family and live in our big safe house again. Chapter 18, 19, 20 comments. There are many aspects to every person's personality. Aspects can be as rich and varied as the images in a kaleidoscope. A person can be gentle in many situations, sharp in certain circumstances. The surroundings trigger one aspect, bring forth another. Some traits may be borrowed for a time, only to disappear. In the cottage, the sisters grow close through Bo's poetry. One could say that they are more aspects than they are personalities. I remember how I perceived myself before I lost one part or another of myself, when I was subjected to violence and threats and forced to isolate that experience, that is, to separate it from my self-image and my view of reality. I have memories of being whole. Even after the parts had developed, there have been times when they were less fragmented, in peaceful places where I was safe and nothing triggered them. That was when I got to know my essence. Then the ghosts within me were less frightening. They could even feel like lovely and important children. Within me were the responsible and protective teenagers, the secretive middle children, and the little ones with their vulnerability. Whilst each was their own person, they were also part of the same experience, a fragmentation that creates its own nations, yet is part of the same continent. Some may know that the body and other parts have been subjected, but the body and other parts have been subjected to, but completely deny that this has anything to do with her. The sisters begin to reflect cautiously on their parents, who are, after all, the cause of DAD, and in that sense, more than parents, almost omnipotent. My parents made sure to keep me in an iron grip, but as soon as I found a small opening somewhere, I began to reflect, which in itself was the glimmer of hope for life. Everything was uncertain in my life whilst I was living with Mom and Dad. They were as if they were truly all-powerful and could alter reality. What was allowed to exist one day was taken away the next. They constantly manipulated my perception of reality. Just as they would attack me one moment, the next they would behave like caring parents. Grief and loss were allowed to seep through the cracks for a moment, but the next moment all feelings and vulnerable experiences were denied. But the love for my twin has lived on in my heart and guided me. And although it was another devastating blow to lose Freya as well, who was my other great source of security in life, I was now old enough to somehow cope with the loss. I was able to turn that love and longing into the strength to move forward and live for both of them. I don't know if my parents harmed Elsa, I'll never know, but I hope that isn't the case, and that their lack stems from personality disorders and an inability to cope with vulnerability. I'd like to add that DID in itself is not a personality disorder, but a dissociative disorder stemming from trauma, not behavioral patterns. Whether DID occurs alongside personality disorders, I don't know. Those I've spoken to who have DID in the same way that I've had it haven't exhibited, for example, apes alongside DID, which rather is connected to PTSD or PTSD, post-traumatic stress. Nowadays, many believe that apes' emotionally unstable personality disorder can involve a fragmentation of identity, but with fewer distinct parts and less association with memory loss and trauma. I would think that apes and DID, though both involving strong emotion and difficulty to trust, are still fundamentally different. With DID, I personally experience having a core, a rather strong me core, that knows how to protect itself.